The Prime Minister has invited me principally to be the guest of honor at this year's Emancipation Day celebrations, and I believe it deserves to be celebrated with the same degree of earnestness as any other universally celebrated event. That event was in 1834, only 1 year shy of 190 years, long enough, one would have thought, for its objectives to have been cemented in history. And yet, even as we herald the event, there remains the potent issue of whether emancipation has delivered on its promise. So perhaps it cannot be out of place today to share some thoughts with you on living with the post-emancipation challenges. It is almost as though when it comes to the experience of Africa, truth is fated to be casualty. Avoiding the beaten track of truism, as the Australian sociologist Hannah Arendt would say, is a long-established attitude towards Africa and her heritage. By the dominant narrative even of today, nobody would be faulted by believing that both colonialism and slavery are specifically African phenomena. Suffice it to say, England was a colony of the Roman Empire for 4 centuries. All the countries of Europe, Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, and the Vikings of Scandinavia have taken turns in subjugating each other. The United States of America needed a full-blown war to liberate themselves from the British colonialism. For while the twin phenomena of slavery and colonialism may be universal and pervasive, African experience of them has been of an infinitely different order of magnitude and inhumanity. Let us step forward for a moment and think about what is happening in our world today. These considerations evoke mixed emotions for the heritage of Africa, nearly 200 years after emancipation. What could be more inspiring than to see one of us in the highest political office on the planet, as Barack Obama did when he was elected President of the United States, or to see Colin Powell in overall command as chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the most powerful armed forces in the world, or my own Busumuru Kofi Annan as Secretary General of the United Nations. Today, the entire continent of Africa has been rid of the colonial tag and engage with the rest of the world in freedom. I believe that the courage to wage war is meaningless unless it is backed by the wisdom to make peace.
Sure. And no actually Pro-Vice Chancellor Edema Board for Graduate Studies Research Sa Suapoi Professor Rosemary Barry Anthony and also Ekasai Echiremuse.
For a long time, we on this side of the Atlantic have expressed a deep desire to strengthen ties with Mother Africa. There has been much talk, but despite the bonds and history that we share, some might say that meaningful engagement has not been forthcoming. We still await the direct flight from the Caribbean to Africa. This is why today's visit is important, since it represents a tangible step toward this vision. As principal, I could not let this visit go by without inviting our distinguished visitor to the UWI. It is time for us to reconnect with Africa, and it is not simply because of nostalgia or history. Africa is an important continent. It was even more important when, as the great Walter Rodney told us, the process of underdevelopment, and it was a deliberate process, caused by the exploitation by European imperialists, rendered it and the African diaspora vulnerable and poor. That countries within Africa, including Ghana, have been able to challenge that paradigm of persistent poverty and re-emerge as strong, flourishing states is a remarkable achievement and testimony to the brilliance, discipline, and innovative spirit of the African people.